Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. Good to have you with us today. It's a Monday morning, and I played a show last night in Lake Worth, Florida, and it was actually a beautiful evening of worship. And it was a cool show. It was me and had a band with me called Love and the Outcome, and brought them down from Nashville and just had a nice evening of worship. It was kind of this church's regular worship night, so they came ready to worship. And we were chatting about a couple of different things over the course of the night, but a couple of times the idea of perfection came up in the midst of a couple of different conversations. And I remember a while back I wrote a devotion based on, I think it's Matthew 5:48, where the verse, it's a quick verse, and it just says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And that opens up like a whole can of worms, and I'm taking it out of context, but I wanted to just kind of focus in on that verse because this idea of perfection is something that a lot of us get caught up in, and a lot of us get wrapped up in. And yesterday we were chatting about the idea of leaning into your own strength and letting ego get involved, and trying to do things so often. Oh, this is a really cool tree. Let me kind of hang here for a minute. Can you guys look at that? Is that amazing? Check this tree out. Very cool. So yeah, I think I'll maybe stand like right here and talk a little bit. But this idea of perfection and leaning into our own strength and our own abilities to achieve some type of worldly perfection, maybe is the way to put it. And I used to really get wrapped up in this, and I still do sometimes. I'm still always trying to like be better. Somebody commented the other day on one of my posts about the solo worship records that I'm a perfectionist, and I kind of am. I love like when music is great, and I love singing great and having things really, really good. And so I was thinking about this idea of being perfect and relying on our own strength. And then we started talking about it last night, and then I tripped across this devotion this morning, and that I had written a while back on this verse in Matthew, and this idea of being perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. And then I stopped and I thought about it, and the basic gist of the devotion was, hey, look, yeah, I mean, that's all well and good to say, but we have to kind of flip that a little bit on its head and look at it from the perspective of Jesus God looking at us. Because when God looks at us, what does he see? He sees Jesus, because Jesus did all the work for us and died for us and became man, and he became sin, who knew no sin, right? As that verse says. And so we have to, because God looks down on us and he sees perfection, right? He sees how beautiful we are and how amazing we are. And he just sees Jesus in us, which is, it still blows my mind. And yet we get so wrapped up in, I need to be so perfect. I need to do this. I need to be able to do this on my own. And that idea that I always bring up, it's like, hey, God, I've got all this stuff that I need your help with, but these other things here, I don't really need your help with. And that's just the wrong way to look at it. And I continue to struggle with this. And I know that a lot of you guys too. And it's just like, let's just, full surrender, full trust, full faith, just letting God into it all. And that's, again, really, really difficult. But this morning, this idea of, like, what does your week look like this week? What are you working on this week? Okay, like typical work stuff. Okay, there's that 9 to 5 job that we all have that we need to just kind of work through and walk through. But then outside of that, and maybe during that, like, what are you working on this week? Are you working on, I'm actually studying right now on this book that I'm reading about how to be a blessing. And it's super, like, I'm getting really guilty about it. And it's a hard book to kind of get a handle on. And yet one of the points that it makes is don't get caught up in trying to, I'm trying to figure out the way to word this, but don't get caught up in trying to, don't get guilty about not doing it all the time, because that falls into like moralism, right? So we don't want to do that. But what else are you working on this week? Okay, are you working on your devotion time? Are you working on your relationship with your father, your mother, your sibling, a friend? What are the other things that are going on this week that you're just kind of getting lost in and trying to like do on your own? And one of the points of this book that I'm reading is that, look, first things first, prayer, right? Like, every single thing we need to take to God in prayer. And I am so guilty of not doing that. And I get frustrated with myself because I'm like, I need to, like, okay, like last night's show, I had been praying about it a little bit over the course of the week, but then Sunday I was like, okay, God, let me just really focus in on just praying about this show and praying about what will happen. And it was an amazing night. Like, people were worshiping and we got 3 kids sponsored. It was just, God, I hate to say that phrase, oh, God showed up. No, God didn't show up. God's always there, right? It's like we just, created a moment where we could kind of stop our crazy busy lives so that we can actually encounter God for a minute. But that's a whole other devotion. But anyway, I was just thinking about it and I was like, okay, so this idea of perfectionism and doing things on our own strength and, letting God in sometimes, but it all boils down to prayer. And this book keeps hitting home with me. And that's why I'm going to speak on it at the retreat. And I can't wait to kind of share a bunch of the stuff that I'm learning from it. But it's just this thought of, before you start anything, be in prayer about it. And this devotion was supposed to be on perfectionism and leaning into the Father and seeing the way that God sees us. But maybe it's more about this idea of being constant in our prayer life and allowing God to work through those prayers. Yeah. So maybe today, we can, kind of meditate on that. Take that chapter in Matthew. Don't just look at that verse, because that verse gets super, it's impossible. We can't be perfect in the eyes of the Father. The only way that we can be perfect in the eyes of the Father is because of our relationship with Jesus. So looking at it and saying, okay, perfectionism, okay, that's out the window. Cool, totally fine. But what am I going to do this week, today, tonight, over the course of the next 7 days, if we want to look at this at a week-long block, and just say, how can I lean deeper and deeper and deeper into a relationship with the Father as He sets up, certain things for me over the course of the week, whether they be divine appointments or just things that happen at work, things that happen in your family, healing, whatever it is. Like, what does that look like? And then but we can't be aware of that stuff. And the thing that this one part of this book is driving home is that we can't be aware of that stuff if we're not actually spending time with God praying about it. And it's not like praying for specific things. It's more like praying about, hey, God, today I don't know what is going to happen, but I'm waiting for you to kind of maybe lead me into what it might look like as we roll through it. Maybe that's what it is. Or maybe it's let me be open to the idea that you want to use me in a certain way this week or in a certain way today. And again, that takes a lot of honesty and a lot of, dare I say, sacrifice, and a lot of just letting go of our own agendas to do that. Yeah. So what does that look like for you today? What does that look like for you this week? Like letting go of the agenda and letting God into the process of it all and letting him use you to be the you that he made you to be, right? To quote back into that song. That's an interesting little thought. That's an interesting little thought. Where does that take us? Do we surrender enough to let him work through us and to be used by him in ways that we don't even know we're going to be used by him? It kind of it's made its way around in the midst of the conversation, but so that's the thought for today. Think on that. Think on what that looks like for you. And the perfectionism thing, don't sweat it. God made each of us to be unique and perfect in his eyes, and we're all over the place. But if you're feeling like you're not quite there, it's good. God is working through all of us all the time. And don't let the guilt, that whole thing, hey, how is God going to use me this week? Okay. Don't let the guilt of, nothing happened this week. Believe me, something happened this week. Maybe you don't even know about it, but something happened this week. And so we just need to continually be open to the idea that God's going to use us. Oh boy. Interesting. It's an interesting walk with the Father, isn't it? It's amazing. So, check out. I'll put some verses in the comments of the video. But let's just take. I know this kind of wrapped around in a few different ways over the course of this devotion, but let's lean into that idea. Okay, we can't be perfect. The only one who's perfect is God. And don't strive for perfection. Just strive for a deeper walk with the Father instead. Because as we walk more and more and more with him, he makes us into more of the people that he wants us to be, so that we can then be a blessing to others that we encounter in our journey and in our daily walks. And that's just an incredible, incredible thing. It's an incredible walk with him as we go through each day. So, our own strength, our own agendas, our own egos, they get in the way of all that. And God puts up with it, thankfully. But pray about that today. Just pray about what that looks like in your life, and let him take it from there. All right? Don't sweat the perfection. Let the strength of the Father be the thing that drives us and leads us. And I'm going to finish my walk here, maybe take a couple of runs, and kind of just go from there. Man, it's been amazing. I'm heading back up north this week, and I'm looking forward to some amazing nights of worship up there, and it's going to be great. Okay, hey, so if you want to be involved in our community and get more devotions like this and be involved in all that we're doing, Head over to joindavesbandonline.com. That's joindavesbandonline.com. You can get involved in our digital-only membership. That's kind of our entry-level membership, and you get access to over 400 hours of content and devotions every morning in your inbox, video devotions, worship videos, download 14 or 15 albums. Maybe it's more than that, but all the music that I've created. And we get to sponsor a child. We get to help sponsor a kid and save a life, giving a kid food, clothing, clean water, and healthcare. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to get involved with what we're doing, head over to joindavesbandonline.com and you can get involved there. Alrighty. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in today. But yeah, final thoughts, okay? How do we make this practical this week? As you go through the week, think about how God wants to use you. How can you be a blessing to others with the gifts that He's given to you? Don't rely on your own strength. Don't rely on your own agenda. Just pray about it in the morning. Pray about it and just say, hey, God, how do you want to use me today? What's today going to look like? And then just open it up and let the promptings of the Spirit just kind of move you as you go through your day. It's an interesting way to live, kind of exciting way to live. All right. We'll see you, we'll see you on our live streams on Monday nights, and we'll see you on the next one. Prayers up for you guys today as you continue to walk with Him through it all. Amen. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.